New York State Police are investigating an incident that left a mother and 2 young children dead at Niagara Falls. According to police, a local Niagara Falls, New York woman, 33-year-old Keonti Means, and her children, Roman Rossman, 9, and Mecca Means, 5 months, fell to their deaths October 28th at Niagara Falls State Park after bypassing safety measures. A statement from New York State Park Trooper James O'Callahan says authorities were called around 9 a.m. and responded to an incident on or around Goat Island in Niagara Falls. Investigation determined that 3 individuals crossed over safety guardrails and went over Niagara Falls on Luna Island, attached to Goat Island. Police were unable to locate the victims' bodies, but have determined that the 3 individuals' deaths were, quote, intentional in nature. An investigation is currently underway to learn more. Trooper O'Callahan spoke to reporters on October 30th to provide clarity on what police have discovered during their investigation so far, which was the 3 went there and they never came out. That's where we're at. Noting there are a lot of security measures at the falls, O'Callahan added, it's not something where they just stumbled in. Although he couldn't provide specifics of witness testimonies his team had gathered due to the ongoing investigation, the officer mentioned it is alarming what they told us. As for what exactly happened, O'Callahan said that is the part that we may be able to solve or we may never know. But the fact of the matter is we don't believe there are any other parties involved. Based on the information we have, we do know it was an intentional act, but the reason why is tougher to answer.
Story tonight, 45 cars were involved in a massive pileup in Kent this afternoon. This is a live look at southbound I-5 just south of State Route 516. The roadway is starting to clear as you see. Traffic is moving through, but this is what it looked like just before 2:30 this afternoon. The 45-car pileup backed up traffic for 5 miles, leaving drivers stranded. Tow trucks came in to pull out many of people out, and a sand truck had to be brought in to help clean up the oil spill.
And Fox 13's Dave Detling has been there talking to drivers and getting up close video of this massive crash. Dave, do officials believe the rainy weather and slick pavement had a role in this?
Well, talking to WSP Trooper Rick Johnson saying it was not this wet weather that caused that pileup. Rather, it was the drivers going way too fast given the conditions. Now, we are talking about an entire traffic backup. The good news, as you mentioned, is that the I-5 southbound is totally reopened. Now, Washington State Patrol says this afternoon's accident involved 45 cars. It started around 1 o'clock this afternoon. A very scary scene for the people involved. On scene and walking through the line of cars, we saw extensive damage to vehicles, people exchanging contact information, as well as insurance information. There were multiple agencies on scene making sure people were okay. We know a few people were taken to area hospitals. The good news, no life-threatening injuries. I spoke to a few drivers who described this as a chain reaction, one individual managing not to hit anything when those cars started colliding.
Basically, there was just a complete stop on I-5, and everybody just started colliding into one another. You couldn't see anything with the rain, and everybody just started colliding. There's like 40, 50 cars. My back and hip are definitely sore, my neck, and 2 little ones in the back are shaking up. My wife kind of hurting a little bit, but we didn't have to go to the hospital. So I tried to avoid one swipe, but then someone was coming quickly through the carpool and hit my whole back tire, and my back tire's ripped off. And then that bumped me into another car in front of me.
I don't know, I'm just thinking and I'm good. Thank you, God, because I'm, like you say, one of the lucky ones, because nobody hit me and I don't hit nobody, so.
And because of the extensive damage, many of the vehicles had to be towed away from the scene. And that was what I saw when I was on scene earlier, about 18 tow trucks in total. Now, back here again, I-5 southbound, all lanes reopened, but the rain is coming down. WSP, law enforcement saying, regardless of whether you're traveling in this area or on any other roadway, when it's raining out, take it slow. Live tonight, Dave Detling, Fox 13 News.
Toda la vida, tengo 62 años. toda la vida ahí. Todos mis recuerdos, mis padres hicieron la casa, lo hicieron todo. Y ahora de la noche a la mañana esto no. Y por 5 minutos más no estamos vivos porque nos fuimos a casa de los vecinos a los que tengo que estar agradecidos, Artur, Amparo, Iker y Evan, ahí en los pisos de frente. Si tardamos 5 minutos más, ya no estaríamos en el mundo.
No tenemos ni agua, ni luz, ni gas y eso va a tardar. Sí. Es que hay mucho mal. Por arriba está todo arrancado. Un desastre. Esto es un desastre.
¿Qué se siente al ver tu pueblo así? Es tu pueblo, ¿no?
Es mi pueblo. Impotencia. Total. Impotencia y eso. ¿Qué quieres que te diga? Muy mal todo, muy mal.
I really am towards the end of my tether.
Do these people not understand where food comes from in this country?
The industry is on its knees. It's on its knees.
My primary concern is actually for my kids here.
Halloween isn't the only thing giving our farmers a scare this week. Many say the first Labour budget for over a decade has been disastrous for small farms and their future. Paul Tompkins raises a herd of 400 dairy cows on a 300-acre farm near York. He and thousands like him fear that the new £1 million limit on inheritance tax relief on farmland will rob his children of their farming legacy.
I went into the budget feeling quite optimistic, but came out feeling completely winded. I thought that this budget was going to be about helping working people. Yet, if that was the desire, then why am I worried that we're going to be fleeced as soon as a death happens in our family?
The government's assertion is that only around 2,000 of the largest estates a year will be affected. Some financial experts agree.
It still means they'll be significantly more generously treated than the rest of us, and still more generously treated, actually, than farms used to be in decades past. The changes will affect actually a remarkably small number of some of the most valuable farms. The majority will still not be affected by this.
But those criticising the announcement say up to 70,000 farms could suffer. DEFRA figures show about 3/4 of England's farms are smaller holdings of less than 100 hectares. Last year, England's farms made an average profit of £86,000, but 17% of them made no profit at all.
One way to avoid inheritance tax is to hand down your assets 7 years before you die. The problem with that, of course, is that no one knows exactly when that's going to be, and it also means that the farmer then can't borrow against his assets or apply for certain environmental schemes.
A U-turn on the announcement seems unlikely, but farmers like Paul maintain the only fair and reasonable thing the Chancellor can do to protect our farming future and keep food costs down is to completely reverse her decision. Fraser Maud, Sky News, York.
Meanwhile, news of a wildlife tragedy at the famed Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve in central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. 7 elephants have now died in the wildlife park since Tuesday, sending out alarm bells. Authorities suspect some form of poisoning, though the exact cause will be known only after postmortems are carried out. Authorities said that the condition of the 3 other elephants is also serious. The state government has ordered a probe into the death of the tuskers and asked officials to ensure strict action against culprits. 4 elephants were found dead on Tuesday during routine patrolling by forest guards at Bandhavgarh. 3 more bodies were recovered on Wednesday. The park is well-known Tiger Reserve, with the elephant population here being at a relatively, in fact, the population is a relatively new feature. India is home to one of the world's largest Asian elephant populations. There has been big concern on conservation of the elephant population. Nearly 1,400 jumbos have died of unnatural causes between 2009 and 2023, which causes ranging from poaching to train accidents to electrocution and poisoning. Designated elephant corridors have come in for scrutiny for violations. The latest case in Bandhavgarh withdraws attention again to the lack of protection for the animal.
Now, top story at the hour, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that the country will be able to reach anywhere in Iran should the need arise. In a speech to new military officers, Netanyahu said that Israel has unprecedented freedom of action following its recent airstrikes against Iran.
Israel today has more freedom of action in Iran than ever. We can reach any place in Iran as necessary. The supreme goal I gave to the Israel Defense Forces and the security branches is to prevent Iran from achieving.
Now, meanwhile, Israel continues to pound Lebanon. Strikes hit Baalbek, a city situated in the east of Lebanon, as well as the southern city of Tyre. This after Israel issued evacuation calls for both the areas. Now, on the other hand, Israeli emergency services said a rocket launch from Lebanon killed 2 people in Olive Grove in northern Israel, bringing the day's death toll to 7. Now, shifting our focus to Gaza, a large explosion rang out over the Strip on Thursday night. Earlier in the day, in the occupied West Bank, 3 Palestinians, including a child, were killed by Israel. The Israeli army said it was conducting an operation targeting terrorist infrastructure in Turkan's Nusham's refugee camp. A medical clinic operated by Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA was destroyed during the raid in the camp, and some roads were razed. Al-Quds Brigades, which is the armed wing of Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, said in a statement that they detonated a highly explosive bomb in a military bulldozer to thwart the Israeli army's raid. It comes as U.S. diplomats were in the region pushing for ceasefires in both Lebanon and Gaza, hoping to wind down the wars in West Asia as the Biden administration enters its final months. Senior White House aides Brett McGurk and Amos Hochstein were in Israel and held talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and senior officials.
North Korea's latest missile test has set off international alarm bells, intensifying fears that Pyongyang is actively preparing for confrontation. Our next story analyzes North Korea's launch, one of its most powerful ICBMs.
In a display of military might, North Korea unleashes its most powerful intercontinental ballistic missile, dramatically escalating tensions. Kim Jong-un personally oversees the missile test, a solid fuel intercontinental ballistic missile that shatters previous performance records. The weapon's extraordinary flight path, spanning 620 kilometers, places the entire U.S. mainland within devastating reach. This technological leap represents a critical moment in North Korea's nuclear ambitions. With an unprecedented 87-minute flight time, the solid fuel weapon offers strategic advantages that dramatically enhance North Korea's military capabilities. Unlike liquid fuel alternatives, these missiles require minimal preparation, making detection and interception exponentially more challenging. The launch drew condemnation from South Korea, Japan, and the US.
We reiterate our stern warning that North Korea will bear full responsibility for any consequences that arise.
I call upon them to cease their potentially destabilizing behavior in both the Indo-Pacific region and now in the European theater as well.
In a rapid reaction to the test, the US and South Korea conducted a significant joint air drill, deploying F-35A, F-15K and KF-16 fighters, as well as US Marine Corps aircraft in a show of force aimed at North Korea. South Korean officials voiced fears that Moscow could be providing Pyongyang the advanced technology or military expertise in exchange for North Korean troops, further increasing the security risk for neighboring countries. As North Korea advances its nuclear deterrent capabilities and potentially deeper ties with Russia, the question looms: is Pyongyang gearing up for a larger, more dangerous confrontation? Bureau Report, WION.
The United States has imposed significant sanctions on approximately 400 entities and individually globally, including 19 Indian firms and 2 Indian nationals. This action is part of a broader effort to disrupt support for Russia's military efforts in Ukraine. The U.S. State Department announced that these sanctions are a response to entities enabling Russia's ongoing prosecution of what it describes as an illegal war. Among the sanctioned companies is Ascend Aviation India Private Limited, which reportedly sent over 700 shipments to Russian companies. This includes more than $200,000 worth of U.S. origin aircraft components. Now, sanctions against Indian companies are not a new phenomenon. Over the past few years, the U.S. has targeted multiple firms for their involvement in activities that contravene international sanctions, particularly those aimed at Russia. Sanctions serve as a tool to restrict economic relations and can manifest in various forms. This includes import and export bans, asset freezes, and limitations on financial transactions. In the latest U.S. sanctions are not an isolated case. They reflect ongoing tensions in the U.S.-India relations. These sanctions follow allegations concerning an Indian national's involvement in a plot against a Sikh separatist. Meanwhile, the effectiveness of sanctions remains a topic of debate. Russia continues to trade with other nations such as India and China, potentially undermining the intended impact of these punitive measures. Russia's ability to find alternative routes and trading partners continues to defy Western efforts and boost its economy.
Until Election Day, the presidential race remains historically tight. Kamala Harris is leaning into her message on abortion rights and democracy, while Donald Trump focuses on immigration and the economy. Julia Benbrook breaks it all down for us.
The presidential candidates entered the last full week of the election locked in one of the closest races in recent history.
Make no mistake, we will win.
We're not going to take it anymore.
Vice President Kamala Harris has big names joining her on the campaign trail in the final stretch.
Because by every measure, she has demonstrated that she's ready.
Harris emphasizing issues where polls show she has an advantage: abortion rights and preserving democracy. Her marquee event, an address Tuesday in Washington at the site of former President Donald Trump's January 6, 2021 rally that took place prior to the violent attack on the U.S. Capitol.
He is focused and actually fixated on his grievances, on himself, and on dividing our country.
The former president hosted a massive event in Madison Square Garden over the weekend, billed as the launch of the final stage of his candidacy, spotlighting issues that voters favor him on, including the economy and immigration.
The day I take the oath of office, the migrant invasion of our country ends and the restoration of our country begins.
His message overshadowed by the remarks of Trump loyalists who spoke before him, including comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who referred to Puerto Rico as, quote, a floating island of garbage. The Trump team released a statement saying the joke does not reflect the views of Trump or the campaign. Reporting
Yep, it is. I don't even know. What time is it? 3 something, maybe? I don't know. It is 2:23.
चला ले भाई तू यार आगे गड्डी तू भाग रहे थे लाडू सब भाग रहे May data ka pa guys, send mo sa GC. Wala na, hindi na kaya ito. Natatak na lang. Wala ka magagawa. Yan, lalaki ng bangi. Yan. Ang luyaw mo na. Pinupit yung makikina ng daw na. Hindi ka kakala at gusto ko i-speedbook. Hindi na nag-iaral mo. Bakit? Kung banda yan siya. Madre mía, cabrón, mira eso. ¡El punto! ¡Hostia puta! ¡Hostia puta! ¡Hostia puta!
Nuestra es Julio Guerra, aquí en Café 16 minutos. Julio,
por ahí arriba no para yo.
Hay numerosas carreteras cortadas hasta ahora, sobre todo en el sur por las intensas lluvias. Atraviesa el sureste del país y a los daños que ha dejado hasta ahora.
Yo creo que eso queda pillado de prohibido, tío.
En los accesos a las capitales de varias provincias, por ejemplo Toledo. Lo más...
Major sinkhole swallows a car in the Inland Empire. The hole opening up at this construction site between Maple Avenue and Birch Street in Bloomington this morning. A pipe reportedly burst, and when a car drove over it, well, that pavement caved in. Witnesses tell us that car, you see, went around the construction cones, ending up in the hole. We're also told there were 3 elderly people in the car, but no word yet on whether anyone was hurt.